Good morning, dear children. Let us start our today's class with the prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Dear children, today we are going to see 18th lesson in your 8th standard, Organization of Life. Though it is a big lesson, it will be very interesting. So listen to the lesson very carefully. Let us move on to the lesson. If you look around your surroundings, you will be able to observe numerous varieties of animals. You can see many you cannot see, but you know about the microorgans like amoeba, bacteria, virus that you cannot see by your naked eye. There are also animals like elephants and blue whales which are of huge in size. The variation in animal are not only seen in size but also in the complexity of the cells, tissues and the body structure. Based on the structural organization, organisms can be classified into prokaryotes and eukaryotes. What are prokaryotes and eukaryotes? In some organisms like bacteria, cyanobacteria and mycoplasma, the true nucleus, each cell consists of nucleus, but the true nucleus is absent in those cells. These organisms are called prokaryotics, primitive cells. Okay, organisms like plants and animals have cells with a well-defined nucleus covered by membrane or cell wall. These organisms are called eukaryotics. Eukaryotes. Some organisms have a single cell body and they are called unicellular organism. Example for unicellular organism, as you all know, yeast, amoeba, these are all famous example. Organisms such as plants, animals and human beings are made up of large number of cells and they are called as multicellular organisms. So in this lesson, we are going to know about different levels of organization of living organism with suitable examples. Now let's have an introduction about a biological organization. Later we are going to see that detailedly. Just is given at the beginning. Biological organization starts with submicroscopic molecular level. The fundamental is submicroscopic molecular level and passed through microscopic cellular level. The next level is microscopic or macroscopic organismic level. Finally, it ends in ecosystem and the biosphere. Thus, biological organization shows the hierarchy in organization level from simple to more complex. The hierarchy in biological organization reveals that atoms are the lowest unit at the submicroscopic level, while the cells are the smallest unit in the microscopic level. So atoms combine to form molecules which undergo chemical reaction to form organelles of the cell. The parts of the cell are known as organelles. Okay, organelles of the cell. Several organelles are contained in the cell for doing numerous activities. A group of cells which are similar in their function, structure or meant for a specific function constitutes a tissue. So several tissues together contributes to some specific function inside the body constitute an organ. So first basic like a building, bricks, wall, then building, like that it is the fundamental is cell, then the similar cells forms tissue and similar tissues forms organ. Many organs acting together to perform a specific life process constitute an organ system. In an organ system, different organs participate. That you will know later. Several organ systems together constitute organism. So we see that several organ systems are present in an organism and they are required to perform diverse life process in various different multicellular organism. From lower organism to higher organism, life has passed through simple to complex structural hierarchical level. The pictorial representation of the biological organization is shown. It's very simple. See, this is cell. Inside you can see different things. These are all cell organelles. Similar cells form together to form tissues. Tissues may not be similar depending upon their function. Its shape and size and structure may vary. The name for these tissues are given in Figure 18.4. The first one is connective tissue. This is connective tissue. This is epithelial tissue. This is muscle tissue. This is nervous tissue. See here, figure 18.4. These tissues form together to form an organ. So, similar operations, for similar operation, numerous organs are needed to do a particular operation. So, this is organ system. So, this is one kind of organ system, digestive system. There are respiratory system, excretion, lot of systems are there, nervous system, central nervous system, etc. So, for those life process, different organ systems are needed. Okay. So, later it move on to organisms. Let's first know about cells. Cells are the fundamental unit of life. Cell is the structure and fundamental unit of life. Cells are often called as building blocks of life. The study of cell is called as cell biology. Cell consists of cytoplasm. What is cytoplasm? This yellow color, completely the yellow color shades. This is cytoplasm, enclosed with a membrane. It may be enclosed with a membrane or a cell wall, which contains many biomolecules such as proteins and nucleic acid. So, cell vary widely in shape and size. There is a central spherical nucleus. So, this is nucleus. The purple color is shown, given no, that is nucleus. And a variety of cytoplasmic living cell organelles like endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, Golgi bodies, centrioles, ribosomes, lysosomes, etc. present in an animal cell. Each cell organelle performs a specific function. The size of cells varies in different animals and they which are measured in units of microns. Microns mean micrometer, that is 10 to the power minus 6 meter. 1 micron is equal to 1 divided by 10 lakh meter. You have to put 6 zeros. 10 to the power minus 6 means 6 zeros. Okay. The average cell size varies from 0.5 to 20 micrometer in diameter. The cells of bacteria are the smallest in size, that is 1 to 2 micrometer. In human body, the smallest cell is red blood cell. It is of the order of 7 micrometer diameter. And the longest one is the nerve cell, which reaches the length of about 90 to 100 centimeter. Centimeter means 10 to the power minus 2. Human egg ovum is 100 micrometer in size. Among multicellular animals, the largest cell is egg of ostrich. Ostrich egg is the largest unicell. Mycoplasma with a diameter of 0.0001 millimeter is the smallest bacterium. Let's see, do you know? Our body is developed from a single cell called zygote. The zygote undergoes continuous mitotic division and forms the fetus consisting multitude of cells of different shape, size and content. Fetal cells gradually attain change in structure and function. This process is known as cell differentiation. Shape of cells. Cells are of different shapes. Normally they are correlated with their functions. Some cells are oval or round, while certain others are elongated. Some are branched like the nerve cell or a neuron. Some of our white blood cells are amoeba-like, that is irregular shape, irregular boundaries. Here in your figure 18.3, they have shown you different cells. See, red blood cell, smooth muscle cell, ovum cell, bone cell, sperm cell and nervous cells are given. Next, we need to see about tissues. The cells together form tissues, as I already told you. Tissues are a group of cells that have similar structure and act together to perform a specific function. They are of two types, simple tissues and complex tissues. Simple tissues are made up of cells of same type or kind. Example, glandular tissue. Complex tissues are made up of different kind of tissues. Tissues of dry skin is an example. Hence, simple tissue is homogeneous and complex tissue is heterogeneous. Further, we can divide tissues into four types based on their structure and function. What are they? First one is epithelial, that is covering tissue for protection. Second one is muscular tissue, contractile tissue for movement and locomotion. Third one is connective tissue, supporting tissue for binding different structures of body. Fourth one is nervous tissue for conduction of nerve impulses. All the complex organisms consist of only 4 basic type of tissues. So there are only 4 basic type of tissues for all the living complex organisms. Next we need to move on to organs. So the next step after tissue is organs. Organs are the structure made up of 2 or more type of tissues organized to carry out a particular function. Example, brain. You can give numerous examples. Few examples are given in your textbook. Let's see that. Brain, heart, lungs, kidney, liver, etc. Each of them has specific function. Most of organs are made up of 4 type of tissue. For example, they have given about intestine. See, this intestine is made up of all the 4 types of tissue. It consists of all the 4 types of tissues. How? It is made up of epithelial tissue as the inner lining. Inner lining, it is an epithelial tissue that is covering tissue, which helps in enzyme secretion and nutrient absorption. Epithelial tissue is covered by a layer of muscle tissue. What is muscle tissue? Contractile tissue, which help in peristaltic movements to move the food. Next, the intestine is also supplied by blood tissue, that is connective tissue, which helps in transporting nutrients absorbed by the intestine, and is connected to the brain through the nerve tissue, which conveys instructions from the brain. So to know detailedly about the organ, here in your 8th standard they have given about eye. One particular organ is explained detailedly. That organ is eye in 8th standard. You should learn this very clearly because the same thing will be repeated in your 10th standard science also. 10th will be a public exam. So if you learned properly, thoroughly in your 8th standard, it will be very helpful for you face your public exam science. Okay. So to know about eye, I would like to show you a video. Let's see the video. The eye is one of the important sensory organ in the human body. It is composed of muscular tissue, connective tissue and neural tissue. It is mainly responsible for vision, differentiation of color. The human eye can differentiate approximately 10 to 12 million colors and maintaining the biological clock of the body. The human eye can be compared to a camera as both functions by gathering, focusing and transmitting the light through the lens for creating an image of an object. To understand more about our eye and how our eye functions, we need to look into the structure of the human eye. The human eyes are the most complicated sense organ in the human body, with several parts fixed together forming a spherical structure. Every part of the human eye is mainly responsible for a certain action. The structure of a human eye can be broadly classified into external structure and internal structure. So let's see about the external structure first. First, cornea. It is the transparent layer of membrane that is spread over the pupil and the iris. The main role of the cornea is to refract the light that enters the eye. Next, iris. It is a pigmented layer of tissues that make up the colored portion of the eye. Its primary function is to control the size of the pupil depending on the amount of light enters. Next, pupil. It is the small opening located in the middle of the iris. It allows light to come in. It changes size to accommodate for the amount of light that is available. The iris regulates the light by adjusting the size of the pupil. Let's see how iris regulates and controls the amount of light entered the eyes. This is how the iris controls the amount of light. Also, pupil is a very much important part of an eye. Sclera. It is a tough and thick white shell that protects the inner part of the eye. We know it as the white of our eye. White of our eye is sclera. Next, conjunctiva. It is a thin transparent membrane that is spread across the sclera. It keeps the eye moist and clear by secreting small amount of mucus and tears. Next, we need to see about internal structure of an eye. Lens is first. It is a transparent, biconvex and an adjustable part of an eye made up of protein. The lens, with the help of cornea, refracts light which converges on the retina and create images on it. Then what is a retina? It is the layer present at the back of the eye where all the images are formed. The retina functions by converting the light rays into impulses and sending signals to the brain through the optical nerve. The light sensitive receptors of the retina are called as rods and cones. When light falls on these receptors, they send electrical signal to the brain through the optical nerve. Optical nerve, it is located at the end of the eyes behind the retina. The optical nerve is mainly responsible for carrying all the nerve impulses from the retina to the human brain. Aqueous humor, it is a watery fluid that is present in the area between the lens and the cornea. It is responsible for the nourishment of both the lens and the cornea. Vitreous humor, it is a semi-solid transparent jelly-like substance that covers the interior portion of the eye. It plays an important role in maintaining the shape of the eye and also causes a refraction of light before it reaches the retina. So this is what given in your textbook. Further you will study in your higher classes. Next, organ system. A group of organs form the organ system and together they perform a particular function. The heart and the blood vessels together make the cardiovascular system. Organs such as nose, pharynx, trachea, lungs and diaphragm work together as a respiratory system. The mouth, esophagus, stomach, duodenum and the intestines together form the digestive system. Other examples of organ system includes endocrine system, muscular system, reproductive system, skeletal system, urinary system, immune system, etc. Let us see the respiratory system as an example for organ system elaborately. For that also I would like to show a video. So, now human respiratory system. Our respiratory system consists of organs like trachea, bronchus and lungs, which are responsible for exchange of air between the atmosphere and the blood. Let us see the organs of the respiratory system in detail. Here in this video they have shown the unknown factors about the systems. Let's see the respiratory system in detail. So here in this video they have shown three important parts, but I would like to cover what is in your textbook. Okay. The nose, we inhale air through the nostril, which leads to the nasal cavity. The inner surface of the cavity is lined with cilia and mucus producing cells which make it sticky and moist. The cilia and mucus trap dust and germs to prevent them from going deeper into the respiratory tract. The blood vessels in the nose help to warm the inhaled air. The windpipe, after passing through the nasal cavity, the air enters the pharynx. Then it goes into the trachea or the windpipe, which is an elastic tube extending down the length of the neck and partly into the chest cavity. Between the pharynx and the trachea lies a small air passage called the larynx, commonly known as voice box. The larynx has fold of tissues which vibrate with the passage of air to produce sound. This is what shown in the video. Next, bronchi. The trachea divided into two branches called bronchi. Singular is bronchus. Trachea is shown in the video. So it is subdivided into bronchi. Okay. Further divided into bronchis. Each bronchus leads to a lung where it divides and redivides to finally form air passage called bronchioles, shown in the video now. This is bronchi, bronchioles. Okay, bronchioles is shown. Lungs. The lungs are the organs present in the chest cavity that allow our body to exchange gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide. The lungs are two spongy elastic bags on each side of the thoracic cavity. The thoracic cavity is bound dorsally by the vertebral column and ventrally by the sternum, laterally by the rib, and on the lower side of the dome-shaped diaphragm. The left lung is slightly smaller than the right lung, allows room for the heart. Within the lung, each bronchioles leads to a bunch of air sacs called alveoli. Singular is alveolus. You go through the do you know section in your textbook. Detailedly shown the air columns. How the air exchange is taken place is given to you, shown to you in the video. Okay. Carbon dioxide is getting inside and oxygen is getting outside. Alveoli are tiny air sacs in the lungs that are located at the end of the bronchial tubes, which is microscopic in nature. It is meant for the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So, mechanism of breathing: inspiration, inhalation. The process of taking air into the lungs is called inhalation. During inhalation, the sternum is pushed up and outward and the diaphragm is pulled down. This increases the volume of the thoracic cavity and thus the pressure decreases. The air outside the body flows into the lungs. Here exchange of gases takes place between the air and the blood. Exhalation. The process of expelling air from the lungs is called expiration or exhalation. Upon exhalation, the lungs recoil to force the air out of the lungs. The intercostal muscles relax, returning the chest wall to its original position. During exhalation, the diaphragm also relaxed, moving higher into the thoracic cavity. This increases the pressure within the thoracic cavity relative to the environment. Air rushes out of the lungs due to the pressure gradient. This movement of air out of the lung is a passive event. Exchange of gases in the alveoli. So here inhalation and exhalation is shown. I hope you understand the respiratory system. In your textbook, difference between the you go through the do you know and also difference between inhalation and exhalation is given. You will learn those things. And next we need to see about physiological processes. First process we are going to see homeostasis. Homeostasis is a property of human biological system where the self-regulating process tend to maintain the balance for the survival. The regulation takes place in a defined internal environment. Mammals are capable of maintaining constant body temperature despite the changes in the external temperature. Behavioral and physiological response are the two important regulating mechanisms that maintain the stability of the homeostasis. In simple terms, it could be referred as a balance in a system to maintain a stable internal environment for the survival of the animal. If the homeostasis regulates successfully, life continues, or if unsuccessful, death or disaster occur. All the process of integration and coordination of function are mediated by nervous and hormonal systems. The liver, kidney and brain, autonomic nervous system and the endocrine system help to maintain homeostasis. Maintenance of body fluid concentration, body temperature are done by various biophysical and biochemical methods. Human beings are warm-blooded in nature. What is warm-blooded nature? They maintain their body temperature as constant. When the body temperature rises, sweat is produced to bring the temperature down. When the body temperature lowers, heat is produced by the muscular work by shivering. This is an example for homeostasis. The control of blood glucose level is also another example for this process, in which insulin hormone is secreted whenever the blood sugar level rises, and glucagon hormone is secreted whenever the blood glucose level reduces. So next, diffusion. Diffusion is the movement of particles from an area of higher concentration to lower concentration. The overall effect is to equalize concentration throughout the medium. Let's see a picture. This is an example for diffusion. See, ink drop is put into a glass of water. You need not to stir it. Gradually it spreads, diffuse throughout the water. This is what happening in diffusion. So this is happening everywhere, physically, chemically, biologically in your body. So how the diffusion is taking place biologically is given in your do you know section. The mixing of foodstuffs and digestive juices in the gut occurred by diffusion. Exchange of respiratory gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide, between blood and tissue fluids, between tissue fluids and cells also occurs by diffusion. So diffusion is an important biological process. Next we need to see about osmosis. Let's see that. Osmosis is a movement of solvent particle across a semi-permeable membrane from a dilute solution into a concentrated solution. The solvent moves to dilute the concentrated solution and equalize the concentration on both sides of the membrane. The movement of liquid in and out of the cells is dependent on the concentration of the solution surrounding it. There are three types of situation: isotonic, hypotonic, hypertonic. Next we need to see about osmoregulation. The term osmoregulation was coined by Haber in 1902. Osmoregulation is the process by which an organism regulates the water balance in its body and maintains the homeostasis of the body. It includes controlling excess water loss or gain and maintaining the fluid balance, and the osmotic concentration, that is the concentration of the electrolytes. It ensures that the fluid in the body do not get too diluted or concentrated. Organisms are divided into two types based on the osmoregulation. They are osmoconformers and osmoregulators. As for osmoconformers, these organisms try to maintain the osmolality of their body matching with their surroundings. Most of the invertebrates, marine organisms are osmoconformers. Osmoregulators, these organisms maintain their internal osmolality, which can be extremely different from that of the surrounding environment through physiological process. So, two examples were given in your textbook. Next, cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is happening everywhere in most of the body. Cellular respiration is the process by which organisms break down glucose into a form that the cell can use as energy. This energy is then made available to living cells in the form of ATP. Cellular respiration takes place in the cytoplasm and mitochondria of the cells. The cellular respiration is classified into two types: aerobic and anaerobic. Aerobic respiration. In this type of respiration, the food substance are completely oxidized into H2O and CO2 with the release of energy. It requires atmospheric oxygen and all higher organisms respire aerobically. This reaction releases a large amount of energy. So equation for that is given. Glucose plus oxygen gives carbon dioxide plus water plus energy. Anaerobic respiration. In this type of respiration, partial oxidation of food takes place and the organisms release energy in the absence of oxygen. This type of respiration occur in organisms like yeast, not in human body. Ethyl alcohol or lactic acid and carbon dioxide are the byproducts of this process. This anaerobic respiration you will learn very detailedly in your 10th standard. This reaction releases very little energy because glucose is not completely oxidized. So the difference is given in your table. Just you go through and learn them. Next you need to see about metabolism. Metabolism is the sum of chemical reaction by which living organisms sustain their life. Metabolism consists of anabolism and catabolism. The term metabolism is commonly used to refer specifically to the breakdown of food and its transformation into energy, cellular products and waste elements. So the anabolism and catabolism is explained detailedly in your book. If you read, you can understand easily. I hope you enjoyed today's class. I wish you all the best. Study well. God bless you.